Good evening again, River of Life. It's good to be here with you. I wish I could see your faces. It's kind of strange speaking into a camera lens, and it's even stranger not having David Lee here to ask me questions. So,
is that your joke for tonight?
Yeah, I do have another story for you. Well, it's not a story. In fact, I want to share with you the market report, today's stock market report. Helium was up, feathers were down. Paper was stationary. Fluorescent tubing was dimmed and light trading. Knives were up sharply. Cows steered into a bull market. Pencils lost a few points. Hiking equipment was trailing. Elevators rose while escalators continued their slow decline. Weights were up in heavy trading. Light switches were off. Mining equipment hit rock bottom. Diapers remain unchanged. Shipping lines stayed at an even keel. The market for raisins dried up. Coca-Cola fizzled. Caterpillar stock inched up a bit. Sun peaked at midday. Balloon prices were inflated, and Scott Tissue touched a new bottom.
Oh, man.
So much. Laughter, a
Pray.
merry heart. Yeah. A merry heart doeth good like medicine. Father, we do thank you for laughter. That's a gift from you. Even in difficult times, we can still laugh. And we can still praise you. And so we praise you, Lord. We know that you're in control of everything that is going on. Lord, we as your children, we choose to trust in you, Lord, that you will carry us through this difficult situation. You have not left us. You will never forsake us or leave us. You are with us. And so, Lord, again, we look to you. We follow you. We worship you and we praise you. And we thank you for your word, Lord. May it touch our hearts and minds. Challenge us to be more than we are in all that we can be. For we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, last time we talked about wives. I will get to husbands' wives, so don't give up. Let's reread verses 1 and 2 of chapter 3. And again, the whole context of what Peter is writing about now is living a godly life, doing good, and we do that. We live in holiness by being submissive to authority. He says, wives, in the same way, be submissive to your husbands, so that if any of them, and this is the reason they're to be submissive to their husbands, so that if any of them do not believe the word, they may be won over without words by the behavior of their wives. When a husband sees the purity and reverence of your wives. Now let's pick up with verse 3. Your beauty should not come from outward adornment, such as braided hair and the wearing of gold jewelry and fine clothes. Instead, it should be that of your inner self, the unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is of great worth in God's sight. So the divinely intended manner of life for wives is what's inside. It's inward. It's not the outward adornment. It's not what you wear, but it's what's inside. And you know, we as people, as human beings, we make superficial value judgments when we see people. And even Christians, we all do that. Don't we? Look at her, oh, he's a bum, or oh, she's stuck on herself. Look how she's dressed, and all of this. Scripture says that man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. And many have taken Peter's words here about how women are to dress. They've taken that as an absolute prohibition of any outward adornment. I used to attend the Mennonite church, and the Mennonites took that about head coverings and all of this outward adornment. They took that as an absolute prohibition against any outward adornment. In fact, some of the early Christian fathers did the same thing. Tertullian and Cyprian did this, and many others down through the ages have done that also. But Peter's emphasis is not on prohibition. but he's emphasizing a proper sense of values. The braided hair that he's talking about refers to gold-braided hair. After the fashion of that day, it was extravagant hairstyling, particularly among the wealthy, and literally it amounted to covering your hair in lavish gold spangles or gold adornment. So what Peter really has in mind is unnecessary extravagance in the way people dress. The inner self that he talks about is really the hidden person of the heart, or the character of the person. In this case, the character of the life. In biblical psychology, the heart is the central psychological term, and it refers to the faculty with which we relate to God and through which we make basic decisions. It's the seat of all that man is. And the Christian woman is to cultivate an inner spirit, an inner disposition of a gentle and humble heart, a quiet sort that's imperishable or unfading. I like what he says there. Notice that. Instead, it should be that of your inner self, the unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is of great worth in God's sight. Sad thing is, ultimately, as we grow old, our beauty fades. I used to look good one time when I was young. And now I look in the mirror every morning and I go, who is this guy? And I also have to wear a CPAP. Actually, I have to wear a BiPAP. So I wake up every morning with big marks down my face, and that does not do anything to enhance my beauty. But the truth is, as we age, our beauty fades. But the character, the inner self, it never fades. Beauty does, but not character. I have to talk about my wife, Linda. When I first met her, and actually on the first date, I come up to her house, I came up to her house, knocked on the door, she opened the door, and my first thought was, this is the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. I hope somebody sees me. They won't believe it. But what struck me even more, it wasn't the outer beauty, it was her character that ultimately was the most impressive to me. She was a godly woman. She was a woman of honesty and integrity. She loved the Lord. She had that inner beauty. And as we both fade, that inner beauty stays there. And it's sad that we live in a world that's governed by materialism, by self-centeredness, by sex obsession, and we even see that creeping into the church. So Peter's words are even more important for us today and are to be taken seriously. It's a gentle and quiet spirit that God admires and wants and desires. That's a great work in God's sight. Let's read verses 5 and 6. For this is the way the holy women of the past, who put their hope in God, used to make themselves beautiful. They were submissive to their own husbands, like Sarah, who obeyed Abraham and called him her master. You are her daughters if you do what is right and do not give way to fear. So Peter carries on with this advice about how wives are to be truly beautiful, and it's not just some well-meaning opinion that he's giving here. Peter turns to the Old Testament. He uses the Old Testament scriptures to support this exhortation. He does it first in broad terms, and then he does it through the example of Sarah. And what is the major, look at that first verse, what is the major characterization of those women? They were holy. They were holy because they were set apart to God and through their hope in God. The greatest thing that any of us can have, the greatest characterization of us would be that word holy, because we are set apart to God. Our hope is in God. We are living for God. For this is the way the holy women of the past who put their hope in God used to make themselves hard to believe that holiness can be beautiful, isn't it? But that's exactly what the Scripture is saying. They trusted, these holy women trusted the promises of God, and they were adorning themselves. Their beauty came from their inner beauty. Their beauty came from their submission to God, and that made them beautiful. So now he goes to the great model of womanly submission, and that's Sarah. Now, Sarah respected and obeyed Abraham, and it extended even to her speech because she called him her master. Now, that was acceptable in Old Testament times. It was a term of respect. It was a term of submission. Women, you are not called to call your husband master. That is not what you're to do.
Thank you.
Thank the Lord. And that terminology was not uncommon in the ancient world. Like I said, it was expected back then. But Peter doesn't hesitate to apply Sarah's example to those who are hearing this letter read, to the readers. You are her daughters, he says. You are her daughters if you do what is right. Again, character. We are called, as believers in Jesus Christ, we are called to do the right thing. We read earlier in Peter and Paul, do not use your freedom as a cover-up for evil. We are free, but we are called we are free to do the right thing. We are free to obey. We are free to submit. We are free to walk in the footsteps of Jesus, even in unjust suffering. They did what was right. So the norm for wifely conduct is submission to God and devotion to allowing God to develop her Christian character. And moreover, wives are not to give way to fear. Again, I think that's one of the sad things we're seeing in everything that's happening now with this coronavirus, that so many people are giving in to fear. And yet, on the other hand, some are not giving in to any kind of fear at all. They're flouting all the warnings. So the balance is, don't be fearful. For us as Christians, God is with us. But at the same time, use common sense, follow the rules, the norms for keeping us safe. But godly women are called not to fear. You keep your focus on God. Your hope, it says their hope was in God. What are they not to fear? Number one, they're not to fear failure. They're not to fear that their husband won't be saved, or the loss of an unbelieving husband. They're not to fear failure or loss. They are to remain faithful and hopeful in God. All right, wives, this is what you've been waiting for now. What with husbands? What about husbands? Let's read verse 7. Husbands, in the same way, be considerate as you live with your wives and treat them with respect as the weaker partner and as heirs with you of the gracious gift of life, so that nothing will hinder your prayers. Nothing will hinder your prayers. Unlike Paul, it's back in Ephesians, when I preached on husbands and wives there, Paul had 3 times more to say to husbands than he did to wives. Here, Peter has less to say. His instructions to husbands are brief, probably because as far as faith went, the family followed the husband's religious choice. And that's what Peter is really dealing with here. It's about the faith. It's about the husband, the family following Jesus Christ. So he doesn't have to say as much because there's more of a responsibility on the wife when she receives Christ than the husband does. But yet, the husband needs instructions concerning the care of his wife, and he needs it for a number of reasons. Notice, too, that Peter says, in the same way. In the same way. Again, submission, going back to what Paul had said in Ephesians. Be submitted to one another. Peter's dealing with submission here in the same way, likewise. In the relationship of marriage, the husband is to be submissive to his responsibility as the head of the household. It's men, it's your responsibility for the spiritual life of your home. You don't shuffle that off on the wife. It's your responsibility as the head to see that the children are brought up in the nurture and the admonition of the Lord. Now, a harsh or unthinking Christian husband could be a hindrance to the family's spiritual growth. Another phrase we often heard mentioned is that children will treat their husbands and wives by the same model that they saw in their own households. So you're responsible ultimately for how your children perform in marriage. What Peter says, Christian husbands are to be considerate, and they're to be understanding and sensitive to their wives' feelings. You cannot run roughshod over your wife. You can't be authoritarian and say, it's my way or the highway. You can't be the one that says, God told me, and therefore everybody must follow me. No, you must listen to the counsel of your wife. You must be sensitive to her feelings. You must be considerate. You must be understanding. You're to be courteous in your behavior. You're to treat your own wife with respect as the weaker vessel. That simply means that the woman does not have the physical strength of a man. And so the husband has to recognize the difference and take it into account. Doesn't it make you feel really manly when your wife says, honey, I can't get the lid off this jar. Would you do it for me? Yes. Yes, I feel good. I popped the lid on that jar. I'm the man. I'm the husband. He says the husband must take it in account as you live with. So that simply means every aspect of your marital life, you must take into consideration how you treat your wife. At home, at work, in whatever way, with the kids, you are to consider your wife in all aspects. You are to show her respect. It's interesting, again in Ephesians, Paul tells wives, you must respect your husbands. And I think that's one thing that men truly desire, maybe even more than love, is they want the respect of their wives. But here, Peter turns it around and says the husband is to show respect, which really is the word honor, to his wife, and not despise her. Not despise her physical weakness, not despise her spirituality, not to despise anything. Then he says men are to remember that women are co-heirs, heirs together of the gracious gift of life. Women, wives, have an equal share in the new age, in the life to come. They have an equal share in this life. If they're co-heirs in the life to come, they have an equal share in this life as well. In this life of the new age. And they experience the grace of God equally with men. They are co-heirs. As Paul said, Ephesians 5:21, submit yourselves to one another. One another. Men must also remember that selfishness and egotism in the marriage relationship is going to do damage to your relationship with God, and it will hinder your prayer life. Husbands, hear that well. How you treat your wife has an impact on your prayer life before God. And for prayer to reach the throne of God means that those who pray must be right with other people, especially their wives. Disrespect for a wife will be a definite break in a relationship and a hindrance to prayer. So you have to be courteous, husbands. You have to respect your wives. She's the weaker partner. He has to recognize the differences. You have to show honor to your wife. You have to remember that women are co-heirs of the gracious gift of life. You have to remember that how you treat your wife will ultimately impact your prayer life. If you disrespect her, that breaks your relationship and is a hindrance to prayer. Marriage is sacred in the eyes of God for both husband and wife. Let's pray. Father, for those of us who are married as husbands and wives, may we show equal respect to one another. May we live considerate and gentle and humble lives with one another. May we appreciate the partners that you have given us as we walk through this life. We thank you for marriage. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.